Hello and welcome. Kunstraum Traube presents an interview between British comic expert Paul Gravett and Samplerman. Let's jump right into it.
This is the title. This is the title for the talk with my name.
In different in wonderful comics lettering. Are we? So
yes, because I'm collecting all these typographies and making my collection, and I'm trying to write my name with the letters. So sometimes I have to recreate some missing letters, of course.
Of course, you don't have to complete the alphabet, do you?
So the collection is growing. This is useful for books or ID cards or invitations.
It's an area of comics that's kind of under regarded, I guess, is the skill, certainly classically, of hand lettered typed fonts, typeface.
Sometimes it's really well done, but you also have some really bad drawings of letters in the 40s because it was made really fast, and they didn't care about that, or they didn't like to do that, but they had to do that anyway. And
but it's so refreshing because these days so much typography in comics is digital and clinical and not handmade, and that is definitely something that
the best for that is Robert Crumb is making a very nice typography for the titles of his comics. But
I just
because I don't use Robert Crumb's work.
No, that's almost too personal, isn't it? Too immediately.
Yes, it's his work. It's his vision.
Yeah, I just picked up yesterday. I picked up his new Sauve qui peut comic that David Zwirner Galleries published, which has got some nice new work in it, a lovely logo on it. So so collage is not something people think about a lot with comics.
And there are not so many things made with collage. I have some examples of the past. A few examples. So we can consider it like the first comic collage, Max Ernst, because he used the engravings from the popular stories book from the 19th century, and he made his surrealistic stories, which can be considered like comics, and it's of course a masterpiece. And
incredible, I
wanted to show it as one of the great ancestors of the collage.
Absolutely. His other famous story, of course, is La Semaine de Bonté, isn't it? And they had a whole exhibition at the Musée d'Orsay in Paris, I saw, where had all the original collages. Of course, all the paper is fading; it's getting more and more brown over the decades. But beautiful things.
Of course. The yellow paper becoming brown.
Acidifying essentially because of the paper quality. But there may be things before this. I'm not sure. I'm almost certain there must have been some other collaging narrative forms, I guess. But this is seen to be pretty much year one for
yes, maybe Picabia before did some collage. I don't know exactly. And the collage is connected to the Dada movement, of course.
Yeah, and that includes obviously also people like John Hartfelt with his photo collages, which is a whole other field that is very rich too, of course, not just using drawn images. Yeah.
Okay. This example, I took it I borrowed it from Volkmar because I didn't know about it, but this is the first occurrence of the use of an American comics in a piece of art. It's by Kurt Schwitters. He was a collagist.
Exactly, important one. This is a one-off piece. Yeah, very nice. I know later on Rauschenberg included bits of comics, and obviously plenty of other people after that. But what do you think this comes from? I'm going to be geeky. What's it from? Is it from something like Flash Gordon or something like that?
I have no idea.
Someone will know. Someone will know.
Maybe it's Alex Raymond drawing, but it doesn't look like it's. I think Alex Raymond is better than that, but maybe it's someone who took over some.
It could be one of Austin. Yes, it could be, couldn't it? It could be Austin Briggs who took over Flash Gordon.
Yeah, something like that.
Someone will know.
I saw a big exhibition of Kurt Schwitters in Paris in the 90s. Beaubourg.
Yes.
A great retrospective from the beginning to the end, and it was very influential. I really love his work.
Yeah, yeah. And was this just one flirtation by Schwitters, or did you see other examples in that retrospective?
This is the only one I know.
Yeah. So he didn't
stay in London. It was in exile in London, and died shortly after this time. So it was one of his last pieces.
Okay. Oh, it's quite late. 1947, of course, quite late. Yeah.
And I think it was for like a mail art project. He sent it to some.
Yes, because you have the stamp, so it's.
I see what you mean. Yes.
For Cat, yes, it's. Yeah.
Of course it is. Yes, it's a piece of postal art. Excellent. Now we come to Jess, who I wanted to pause on a little bit here, but yes, this is one of the big, for most people, for me anyway, it was the revelation that you could do this with comics.
Of course, I can't
when did you discover Jess? Did you know about Jess?
No, I can't say this is an influence because I discovered it after I started to make my collage. So,
yeah.
So someone, some commentaries were saying, "Oh, you are the new Jess" or something like that. So I had to look up to see who it was about, and of course, this is on the same. This is the same idea of using a comic and putting it in another way and getting something new about.
He made a lot. Obviously, Tricky Cad is the most famous remix of Dick Tracy, the very lettering, the very title of the thing, and he was working to remix the existing stories. And one of my favorite, I just came across in this catalog, is this wonderful one he's used, which is I Kick Art.
I Kick Art is it's a good one.
I just think can't get much better than that, really. I think I Kick Art. And I also just wanted to read, because in here, and this is relevant, because I was reading what some of the interviews and comments you said. These are from pre and admonitions by Jess from this Jess catalogue from 1980. Just a couple I'm going to read out. Not take very long. One, and I think this, you might say if you agree or disagree with these ideas. He says, one, an unapparent connection is stronger than an apparent one, and two, luck that differs greatly from art creates many things that are like it, and doubt has led certain artists to beg the aid of all the other arts, experiment with contradictory means, the encroachment of one art upon another, the importation of poetry, wit, and sentiment into painting. All these modern miseries are vices peculiar to the eclectics. And I think
this is great.
Certainly can't. I think you would class yourself as an eclectic, wouldn't you? I think something.
And about the luck, he is using the term luck. I would use the term randomness. So the randomness is creating always something unexpected, and this is very important. I want to be the audience of my work. I don't want to be the producer only of my work. I want to discover what I'm doing while I'm doing it. This is the way to keep excited about what I'm doing.
You want to surprise yourself.
Yes.
Making it. And then on the back, there's a marvelous bit of writing on the back here by Robert Duncan, in the back of his catalogue, and this I thought was really.
We have some lagging now.
meaning of course.
Yes, we are losing you now if you hear us.
Yeah.
You have to do it all over again because after a while we lost you.
Okay, shall I just try again?
That's the last thing you were saying we didn't hear.
Okay, I'll just read it out. Okay, so on the back cover there's this very good quote from Robert Duncan about Jess, but I think it could equally apply to your approach and your work, Samplerman. He says, for those who search out and recognize the identity of each cell of these organisms, and by the way, I know you've described your panels as being like cells in organisms, there is another wonder. As the intelligence unfolds itself, the suggestion of a universe that is meaningful throughout, built up of correspondences, puns, patterns, melodies of things seen.
Very good.
There, the musical analogy, I was reading an interview with you where you often see that compose things literally like a composer, like a musical composer,
yes.
Using graphics to put your collages together.
Yes, because it's often abstract, and I have to rely on the shapes, the colors, so it's not about some conflict between two characters. It's about some conflict between two colors or two shapes or two panels or two patterns. So yes, it's a visual translation sometimes of something that could be musical. And I like also to have, when you open musical software, you have the waves. You have the representation by waves of the music.
Oh, yeah.
It's a visual thing that evokes music. Yeah. So I have this in mind when I'm working on my sometimes abstract comics.
Exactly. And I would think also that perhaps the pages and certainly the panel shapes, relative sizes, that creates a kind of a tempo, a kind of rhythm or dysrhythm, I guess. Can underpin the melody, them, that sort of thing. And there's going to be, like in music, you can have an idée fixe or a leitmotif where a pattern or something can repeat. But
yes, the repetition, the use of repetition, symmetry, is
rhythm.
Very musical and very. There is a sense of a pace. There is a pace, a change of pace, and you can have an analogy with the music, and I like that. I listen to music all the time, even when I'm asleep. So,
oh, really?
It's very important.
Even when you're asleep? Okay.
Yes, it's stupid, but I leave the music on when I'm falling asleep. And
right.
So, of course, when you are asleep, you don't hear anything. You just have the little. You just have your ear working for nothing because it's not connected to the brain. So I should program the stop of the music on my amplifier, which I do sometimes.
Right. Oh, right. Just another note about Jess. I mean, Tricky Cat is the most famous thing. He did many other things, and we are going to get to see your work, Samplerman. I'm sorry, but the one thing I'm sure you also know, but I particularly struck by, was his reversion of a little known but incredible Sunday strip called Lance by Warren Tufts, which Jess revamped as Nance. And if you can see the title here very easily, you can maybe just about hear it. Because as we know, Jess was a gay and was growing up in the very homophobic 50s, and so he would have to do this privately, but he would take the often unashamedly homoerotic, if certainly sort of very male celebratory graphics of this Western, which is a masterpiece. In fact, he did an incredible Sunday comic strip and made his own version of that as well. And I think the main the question I've got for you about relating just back to Tricky Cat as well is that I think Jess was quite strict in terms of using, reworking, often collaging the texts, but not adding texts, and have a certain kind of system working with the original as far as possible, not doing a lot of stuff from many other episodes or even from diverse sources. Have you done things quite like this, where you've stayed sort of strictly within one artist, one story, even one episode, and done this kind of reworking that Jess did? Or do you think that's a little bit too, well, for you anyway, perhaps too confining an approach to collage?
Yes, I did something for Smoke Signal. It's
yeah,
the magazine from Desert Island, Brooklyn, the bookshop. So it's the guy asked me to make something from Fletcher Hanks.
Yes.
And so, of course, I used several pages, but it was presented as one original page from Fletcher Hanks, untouched on the left page, and on the right page it was my version, completely messed up, of the same page. And so it was a work about Fletcher Hanks and his universe, but with my touch on it.
Yes.
So I did this kind of thing. I sometimes work on one artist and do like it's like doing a new page from one artist. And I have some dreams of making, for example, a new Tintin story, just using the previous stories of Tintin and putting it together in a different way. And of course, I will face some lawsuit troubles. But
there is no such thing as bad publicity. It'll get you a lot of publicity.
We'll see if I do it. I have some artists I like very much. I would like to work exclusively on their work, like George Herriman, for example, or Basil Wolverton. Some artists I really love, and I'm really excited or inspired by their work. So I want to use it.
Exactly. This is such a rich field, and if we look at some of the other artists that you've presented here,
this is Owen Falstrom, which I didn't know as well when I started to do my collage. So this is really a great discovery for me, because it's really beautiful, really weird. It does not look exactly like my work,
isn't he? I can see some Batman in there.
Maybe. I'm not looking for. I don't want to recognize necessarily the sources, but yes, I see the Batmobile on the. So Volkmar is saying that it's not a collage; it's only painting. This is crazy because it looks like a collage.
You're kidding me! Amazing.
Okay, so this is an interactive work because you can move some parts of the of this work, which are magnets.
Gosh. Well, I'm so impressed. I must confess, I have some misgivings about Falstrom, because I know he's done some Crazy Cat.
Yes, he has done some work based on Crazy Cat, and
which I mean,
he has
my good friend Savage Pencil, who's a top, amazing graphic artist here in the UK, wrote an essay about how he felt that with the Falstrom was kind of like pinning butterflies. You know, he was literally destroying the beauty of Harriman in what he was doing with these. I guess they are collages of Harriman's work. He didn't feel that it actually brought them to life. It did just the opposite. He had some considerable reservations, and Harriman is something I think would be quite difficult to. Well, maybe not difficult, but I mean, he's got such a world of his own, of course, hasn't he? And how would you? He might be a challenge to collage. I don't know, because he's already, the work is so rich and experimental in itself.
I have no idea. As I said before, I want to surprise myself. So
Actually, see what happens.
I feel very excited to the idea of working with his work. There is so many. Obviously, I'm attracted to the colored Sunday pages.
Yeah,
Which,
that's so good.
I have some beautiful big scans of these pages. So I see I can do it. I will do it in the future, probably.
Yes. Right. We will get through all these other people so we can get to your work.
Okay.
We must otherwise get through them. But let's just have a look at them again. Oh, and Ryoshida, yes, I've seen quite a bit of his stuff. That's nice stuff.
I love the collector aspect and the tidy way he
Very
puts
tidy.
the elements with. You see, all the characters are in an angle of the panel.
All in profile.
This is really about the angles, and it gives a sense of geometry, which is really nice. Graphically, really nice.
Right.
Yes, it's like it's like a graphic poem.
Exactly. Yeah. I was wondering how. I know you have a huge archive of scans and JPEGs and things. And I mean, I imagine Ryoshida must have. These are just clipped, literally physical cutouts from comics. I'm pretty sure. But do you organize your scans by sort of profiles or close-ups, or I mean, how do you have a taxonomy of?
Yes, trees, cars, faces, eyes, hands, legs. Planes,
and do you have
planets,
subcategories, as in, facing left, facing right, or male?
No.
Okay.
I could do that. Probably I should install a sophisticated cross file folder organization. I could have the same thing in different folders. Following different criteria, but I don't. So I usually forget what I have in my archive. I have to look up to remember all these things, and
well,
it's a little messy. This is a little organic.
Yes, well, a certain amount of serendipity and accident. Yes. Accident is quite nice.
And a lot of things I forget. So this is also Ray Yoshida, one of his scrapbooks, and I used it because it was HD on our website, and I made a little homage to Yoshida using this by sampling his own samples and making my own page.
And they all have a lot of things in common of predominantly hands, but also some feet, etc., but close-ups of body parts.
But of course, Ray Yoshida was in America. He had access to the real books, which I don't have.
Yes, I gather from reading your interviews that I mean, we haven't touched on this, but your early influences from comics were much more Franco-Belgian, which is the ones you grew up with.
Yes, when I still was drawing my comics, I was more influenced by, of course, the Belgium.
The ones all around you. Yeah.
Here.
Who is this? Who is this? I don't know anything about this person at all. But it's published in German.
He's a Spanish artist or Mexican. I don't even know. Very okay. He's Spanish. Right now, it's confirming. And this is really like Max Ernst, but of course more comics in the shape of the pages. So it's completely the continuation of Max Ernst with the same kind of sources.
Yes, I think I have. Now the name doesn't ring a bell straight away, but I have got some books of this guy's stuff. I think there were quite a few of them. They were published in English as well. If it's the same artist I'm thinking of, that is interesting. And of course, Kirby. I mean, my God, people don't think of this, but
Yes, Kirby was one of the rare artists using collage in his work. So when he wanted to show some parallel universe, he used the collage, and it's really beautiful. You have different. I put two coloring of the same page because the different editions are showing. But you also have the original collage somewhere.
That's it. That point, I think on there, on the top left, you have the original color artwork, and then how it would appear in the Marvel comic. Because back in those days, they couldn't print a full color photographic collage.
No, they were limited with the techniques, but it's still nice.
Yeah, yeah. He was a great collage artist. He made them lots more for himself. Yeah, great to mention him. And of course, this is a masterpiece from Spiegelman, especially the one.
Yes, obviously from the it was published in his magazine Raw and in the 80s, and
and
a long time ago. I know this work from a long time ago because a friend of mine had the magazine, and the Malpractice comics is really great. I really love this.
Well, Spiegelman was, I mean, he's talked about this period of experimentation, and he was just, I think, inspired quite a lot by experimental film, and probably also by some of these collage artists we've just looked at, to kind of shake things up, because that stage things were getting, even the underground, which was a space,
the underground
was getting rather systematic. It was getting, there was a certain repetition was going on. It all looked like Robert Crumb. People were imitating just one set of models, and Spiegelman was wanting to shake it up and make, wake up more possibilities. Yeah,
I guess it's from Rex Morgan.
That's right. Yeah,
Nervous Rex. It's Rex Morgan, and he is making fun of this ridiculous comic strip.
Exactly. Very, very stuffy and dull looking in a way. Rather like Rip Kirby. Not no disrespect to Alex Raymond's Rip Kirby, but this is somebody doing a similar thing to literally throw it into the blender practically.
Yes, this is a young French artist, and is using the photocopy machine and destroying, rephotocopying some destroy pages. I don't really know exactly the process, but this is very interesting. Yes, it's like in a blender.
It is.
I say that.
Yeah. Now this is something I don't know much about this artist. It looks very intriguing.
She's a little obscure, but she's very prolific, and she lives in New York, and I really love what she's doing. Also because this is a little mysterious to me. A lot of photocopy and scanning, and I don't really know, but I found it really beautiful, and
I agree. Really beautiful. And
it's like the critics against my work can be this is not really comics. This is more like illustration, or I don't know. But she can face the same critics. But myself, I consider it comics, and I really love it as comics.
I agree. There's an interesting new term that's being I've just come across in the last few months or so, called uncomics.
Uncomics, yes.
Right, which is Alan Holm and the people at C'est Bon Culture in Sweden, and there's a whole website, and there's now an anthology, and they are really pushing for moving completely away from the tyranny of storytelling and all our expectations that there must be a story here, and just to allow the viewer rather than the reader, or the reader of images, to lose herself or themselves in the flow and in the that each of us can make, which of course is very close to what a lot of contemporary artists want their readers, their viewers, their audience, as it were, to see, is not to be just given one story, you read to the end, and then you move to the next one. You want to be able to be participating in it and interpreting it in your own way, which is not what comics have usually been intended to do. They've been story-driven, haven't they, for so long?
Yes, and we have a new kind of audience which is open to these new ways of making books and comics.
Exactly, very much so. This is a brilliant artist. Yes, wow.
Yes, he's
yes, tremendous.
Yes, Martin Vitality is working on the physicality of the page and is creating some mini architectures from the frames, and this is really impressive.
Yeah, this is yes, exactly, like almost deconstructing, revealing all the architecture of a.
Yes, this is really about structure, architecture.
Yeah.
He's working from Tintin and
all the classic books. Yeah. What have we got here? I don't know about this one. This is La Liberté, perhaps.
Yes, he's a Canadian artist, and yeah, he contacted me because maybe you can see the similarities with my work.
Right, definitely. Although he's
this is a comic called Explosive Comics. This is a collection of panels with explosions, and of course, I have in my collection. I have the folder with the explosion panels.
Right.
This is always working. Yeah. The panels which are always working. Explosion panels.
There's a whole exhibition about onomatopoeia, by the way, at the Huberty and Brain Gallery in Paris right now. That's a whole.
Yes, there is this artist, Christian Marclay. Christian
Marclay, yeah, exactly. Marclay too. Yeah. Again, this is something I've not seen before. There are so many. It seems to be there's enough to do just a whole exhibition on collage in comics. I don't know where this person is from.
Andrew Venel, I saw his work, and I bought his book, and there are some similarities also working with comics. So this is more about the distortion.
Yes.
This Brazilian artist.
Brazil. I can recognize Monica there, of course, as being remixed, isn't she? The character.
Yes, there's Garfield. There is. Yes, this is Garfield, and
Spider-Man too, of course.
So maybe this kind of work can remind us of the AI things that we can see now with a lot of distortions and weird lines, and I don't know how he did this thing. You can do that by vectorizing the lines, and you can distort them easily.
Right, because it's controlled distortion, isn't it? This is
of course. This is not AE work. It's really by hand.
Right, exactly. The brilliant Jochen Görner, whose work I've seen as well, and is amazing.
Jochen Görner is very interesting. He's working on one particular album of Tintin, Tintin in America, and he chose to hide with black in order to reveal some elements on the page. But of course, he had to redraw the elements because of the fear of lawsuit. So this is his drawings, but this is really based on the album Tintin in America.
I just assumed he would just be still able to get away with it by just putting this black, almost like a sort of filter over the top.
He bought 2 copies of Tintin. He teared down the pages and he worked on the pages with the ink.
Yeah,
and he redrew the elements. You can see the
elements. I see.
And it's about violence, about fire, about guns, and.
He chose Tintin in America, of course, which is with the gangsters and Chicago and everything.
Yes.
Yes, exactly. That's the right one to choose. That's brilliantly done from him. And here we of course,
Ilan Manouach.
He's unstoppable, isn't he? Really?
Yes, he's really elusive. We don't know where he's going. Now he's very interested in artificial intelligence produced work. So he already published an erotic manga only made by a machine.
Right.
And but this is his previous works. So
Right.
the orange one with the page on the right, it was a book about the Belgian style.
Many of your favorite artists and characters all kind of mixed together, weren't they?
Actually, not really, because there are a lot of ugly and bad comics from Belgium. Some bad comics with a gag at the end of the page. And this album is really about the ugliness and sometimes about the racism, which is really present in the Belgium art. You can see it.
Oh, unmistakably, yes.
The way some ethnicities are represented by the caricature, it's sometimes offending and
and they're surprisingly recent. I mean, there might be 70s, 80s. You would think things might have changed by then. Yeah, I take your point. There is a Ricochet brilliant collage book.
Yes, it's not by Ilan Manouche.
It's not Manouche, is it?
Yes, it's a Belgium artist. He did a remix of the whole collection of Ricochet. He recreates something like a trailer of the World Series of Ricochet by taking the best panels. And yes, it was an interesting project.
I think the point was also he was just showing how many times he was hit on the head.
Possibly, yes.
I think it's the theme, because he's obviously suffered some sort of brain damage after being
a concussion.
Yes, great. Okay, we mean to get to your work. We've got so much to look at here, but I think we want to get on because we've only got so much time. But here we are, Pascal Mathy, very, very nice. That looks wonderful.
Yes, he has made an album. He was working on a bookshop and he was collecting the catalogs from the publishers. So he made the collage book only using the recent elements from the catalogs of comic publisher from France and Belgium. And so you can recognize some famous series. And
right.
And the album is really beautiful with some progression, with movement in colors and shapes, with some calm moments and some busy moments. And
you have, of course, recurring patterns and recurring elements as well.
Yes.
And what do we have?
So this is me, but this is me in the 90s. So this is just to show that I was already making some collages when I was making some fanzines. So on the left, you have some photocopies of photograph of trees which look like animals, and on the right, one day I found in Paris on the work side an envelope. It was full of photographs from the catacombs of Palermo. So in the catacombs of Palermo, you have these corpses and skulls with clothes on. And this is really weird. So in the 90s, I was using a lot the photocopier. So it's the style of the time.
Right. You mentioned, I think I went in an interview that that period of graphzines, fanzines, xerography, punk, obviously being a big thing in the 70s, 80s. That was all around
90s.
And into the 90s, fed into your.
I started in the 90s.
Yes, right, but it fed into that. Yeah, interesting to see this. Yeah. So
still 10 years later, I still was using some pocket books with some Italian stories with different characters. Or on the right page, I was using some drawings, some collages from my friends, but they were not comic artists. So I took their collages the strange heads, and I made them into my comics because I wanted to make a fanzine about comics, not only illustration.
Right. And were you self-publishing these, or were they in anthologies or something?
Yes, it was self-published, and it was a very small run of 30 copies, and it was a training. It was experimental. It was fun.
Yeah. Excellent. I didn't know what was. Let me skip to the next one here. So what do we have here?
So this is the start, the very beginning of my collage period, which was around 2012, 2013. I was very impressed by a project which was called Garfield, Minus Garfield. I loved what the guy did.
Garfield. Yes.
So the guy removed Garfield from the Garfield strip, and there was only the human, I don't remember his name, a character, and it was really strange and really somewhat depressing, because it was just about depression. You can realize that the cat was bringing the funny part, but the human was bringing the really sad and depressing part.
Yes. Someone was telling me, by the way, that Jim Davis, when he first started proposing the Garfield strip, maybe it wasn't called Garfield, but his first character was going to be a tick, as in an insect. Okay. And it wasn't getting anywhere. And the syndicate, his agent or someone said, look, nobody likes ticks. They're not going to be popular. Just do an animal that people like. Well, what do people like? They like cats. Okay, I'll do a cat. And it became Garfield.
Yeah, it's always working with a cat.
Oh, yeah, cats work always. Yeah,
yes, I'm doing a comic strip about Barnacle. And it's not successful enough.
Oh. So here you do the same thing with Bugs Bunny, obviously.
Yes, I started this kind of thing. Obviously, I'm not the first to do that, but the funny thing is that it's about a zoo. So I opened the door to the animals, so they left the zoo. So the cages are empty. But this is just before I started to do my Samplerman symmetry rotation thing.
Yeah. It reminds me of a series of books that were done that took out all of the characters, I think, it's all the characters from Marvel Comics. And there was and probably DC Comics. So you had, stories of Superman or Batman or Hulk or Spider-Man, and they were recognizable the stories, but there's just nobody there. It's just the environments, the locations, and nothing else, and that worked.
Painter also did that with some famous paintings. So you have the Mona Lisa, right. Without Mona Lisa. You have the Birth of Venus by Botticelli, with no one, just the background. Reconstitution of the background. It's really beautiful.
Yes, and in a way, it draws attention to the backdrop or the decor that we don't often pay attention to enough. Here we do the same thing. You've done the same thing here.
Yes, this is the same idea. So I remove all the characters, and it becomes an empty page. So this can be filled again with something else. And sometimes I'm making some workshop with the kids, and I bring some prints of this empty page. I ask them to fill the page with some elements. So I bring some magazines, and they cut, they put things into the panel. They have their own comics collage.
Right. What I love here as well is just the lovely color patterns that you got here, and of course even the
colors are beautiful.
The yellow of the captions forms these beautiful.
Of course, it's a little saturated. It depends on the person who did the scan.
Right. Oh, but it's beautiful, and even a little arrow.
Yes, yes, it's nice to leave the arrow.
Yes, right. And what's going on here? Yeah.
So this is one of my little mini comics. So I
adding
only
things
used one panel as the background. Always the same street. This is a book about of course, when you are looking at American comics, you see a lot of fights. So I decided to use the fight as a theme because I have a lot of materials related to the files, to the fights. So this is a book, and this is the pages, and I always. So you have the first page on the upper left, which is empty, and I'm making a real collage on this empty page. This is a real collage with glue, and so each copy is different from the other. Each owner of the comics has a unique comic.
Wow. Did you keep a record of all the different?
Yes, I'm scanning all the time, and I have 200 of them, so I can make a new book.
Wow.
Only the variants.
Right. So, I mean, this is a basic product process question could be brought in here, but I mean, you like the physical process of
yes,
collage, as well as the digital one.
It's refreshing to come back to the paper on the glue, and I have some Marvel comics translated in French. I can buy for cheap price on eBay, so I destroy them and I use them to. I mostly use one with Miss Marvel from '78, which is nice, and I like the drawings and I like the colors. It's very well printed and nice paper.
Right. And what glue do you use? Not to get too geeky, but
I'm using the UU stick.
Okay, not Pritt stick, I suppose. Not Pritt stick, because that's not so permanent, maybe. But
no.
Yoo-hoo. Well, that's a good. Okay, a bit of brand recognition there. Sorry, we have to make probably that's advertising, maybe. I don't know.
I don't know.
Now, these are not done with Yoo-hoo, are they? Are they?
It's just I made this to show the process. So
right. Oh, I see how they can grow.
You can do a lot just using on Photoshop the symmetry and the rotation tool.
Yes, exactly.
This is all
like something natural. It's like some amoeba, isn't it? Duplicating and replicating.
This is like cellular growing, like a cancer.
Yeah.
And with just the head of a man, you can cover the page. And this is something an artist always has the fear of the white page, of the blank page, you know? Yes. So to avoid the fear of the blank page, I'm making some patterns. I'm covering the page. I have the background, and I feel reassured. I can move on easily instead of being in front of a blank page, a blank panel. I have to have already something ready to start. Like a painter who is covering his painting with a background color to start.
Yeah, to have something to build from, exactly.
Yes.
Apparently, this looks quite a bit like Superman. He's got the quiff on the top, hasn't he? But maybe he isn't Superman, but he's a
no, it's not. I don't often use the DC Comics or Marvel Comics stuff because it's probably not allowed, and I prefer to
this does not look like
more obscure and anonymous comics.
Yeah. Right. Okay. So this is definitely not Superman, by the way. If anyone's from DC watching this,
I don't remember what it is from.
No.
But for example, this little bullet I'm using for making these pages. So this is an example to show that I can create a universe from a little element. So on the left, you have a portion of the page. And this is from a Fantastic Four story. But don't tell anyone.
No, but
this is a Fantastic Four story from the 80s by John Byrne, probably.
Gosh, it's extraordinary, isn't it? What can generate?
Yes.
From
Yes,
the simplest
I'm the first surprised, but by all of this development.
Yeah, astonishing, astonishing, and beautiful
This is
too.
at the same time, this is metallic and this is organic.
Right. And of course, what you're doing here by putting them in these neat boxes, and they are essentially panels of a comic.
Yes,
There's
when you are
pages,
making something really crazy, you don't have to put them in crazy panels. So squares are perfect.
And in a way, I suppose having identical sized frames next to each other gives you a sort of sequence and sort of sense of from one to the next. Your eye, you are relying in a way on people being so used to reading comics and having
and it's like a movie. You have a progression. You have
you know the language.
I'm also doing sometimes some animation with my comics, with my collage, and I could do an animation with this, for example.
Right. Tremendous, beautiful things. Okay. Okay. What are you doing here?
It's another process.
Tiny elements of color, aren't you? You're separating the tiny elements of color.
Yes, a different process. I separated the different colors and shapes.
Oh,
and,
yes.
Each one is a layer. So the final result is a composition from all these layers.
Beautiful. Yeah, quite beautiful. We won't mention Dastardly and Muttley at this point.
Can you repeat? Excuse me.
You won't mention Dastardly and Muttley. I think it might be Muttley in that.
This is the wacky race.
Wacky races, exactly.
The wacky race.
With Dastardly and Muttley.
With the dog, the grinning dogs.
He was going.
Yes.
He's got the best.
Diabolo and Satanas in French. I don't know if.
Satanas. That's right, Satanas. I love Satanas because he will always go.
It's not found on the web. It's one I bought on a flea market or.
Nice.
Sometimes I find on the the book boxes on the street. You can find some treasures.
Absolutely, yeah. Well, the point is, I think also they're treasures, but they're actually you unlock the treasures of these things because
I'm looking for appealing things. I'm looking for. I saw in this page some shapes that I found appealing for me for my work, and I have to be attracted to the source.
I'm curious to see how you saw that. You've obviously, I mean, to me, this is just like a standard page of comics, but you obviously looked at them just purely as what are the color patterns that are repeating.
Because I don't read them, I look at them.
No, exactly. Yeah, and there is, and it's allows us all to see these actually fairly standard pages of comics in a completely new light and a completely new way to see them. Tremendous, yeah. And then panel layouts. You're very inventive with these, aren't you, as well?
Yes, my
have a 6-panel structure here.
Work allows me because I have the people who likes my work is very open to my experiment. So I'm going forward, and I had this idea that I could tell a story with the layout. Of course, this is a simple story, just the story of a guy buying a comics and reading it. So it's not really interesting, but just the start of something, maybe. And I'm filling the gaps and adding some signification to the raw story.
Yeah. And as the French like to call them, you're using les espaces anti-iconiques.
Absolutely.
We call them in English, we call them gutters, which is much more charming.
Yes, maybe less.
The gutters, of course, can be a narrative thing in themselves, and certainly the shapes they form in here, for example, A friend of mine, a late artist, a fine artist called Les Coleman, who I knew very well and died a few years back, he made a very clever comic panel that, and the gutters spelt out the words no and then yes. And that again created a structure for a surreal comic that he put together.
There is also this Italian cartoon from the 70s called La Linea. It's about a character walking horizontally on a line, but he's part of the line, and a hand appears on the screen and cuts the line, plays with the line, and the character is interacting with. You can find it on YouTube. La Linea. It's an Italian thing. It's really great. One of the greatest cartoons from the 70s.
Oh, excellent.
And the sound is really great. The voice is really great. Actually, the guy who was making the voice died recently, and it was sad, of course. So
tremendous.
You should look it up. So now you have the use of an eye as the permanent element, but you can put in the eyes anything, and it becomes what the eyes can see.
Right.
What is happening to the eye? What is happening to the person who is the owner of the eye?
Right. So from both sides of the eye looking out onto the world, and then what's going on inside the head of that eye.
Yes, the eye is becoming like a door, and something is coming from the eye, something is going out inside the eye.
Yeah. This reminds me of a Will Eisner spirit story where a death of a character is seen through the eyes of the victim, and initially that he's a baddie, I think, and then it gets, and of course blood appears over his eyes because he's died. It's this kind of
the eyes is always something very strong. I remember the Luis Buñuel movie with the Andalou dog.
Of course, Andalou, yes, of course, is very powerful. And interesting how you've used in the in the ninth panel, yes, you've included the word "but," which obviously
the ninth. Yes, I like to use the meanwhile.
But, exactly. I mean, yes, that's a tremendous thing to put in, because without it, it would just be a set of recurring images. But suddenly, by having the word "but," okay, they're obviously meant to be a change of viewpoint here, or change of narrative in some way.
Yes, of course, my comics don't have so many words, but I think that when you put just one word, it has a really big impact, even if it doesn't have a signification or anything. It gives something a direction.
Yes, it reminds me of
because some people are more attracted to the words than to the images.
Sure.
We have the brains, and we have the brain who is more worldly, and the brain who is more about the image.
Exactly. Yes. It reminds me of that. I mean, the way that Chris Ware, I'm sure you know his work is.
Oh yes, he has this
very large left gut will appear some kind of huge monumental presence on the page, which is he's almost playing with that.
Like it's shouting. Yes. It's shouting. Meanwhile.
Yes, I think it's tremendous what he's done there. And on the right here, what have you done? This is again a repeated frame or repeated image that you put different elements.
Yes, this is an ID card which this is just to show that it can be used as a permanent element, and you can play with it, and
beautiful.
So you have the tension between what is permanent and what is moving and changing. So this is the idea of making a hole, playing with the page and making a hole into the page, and what's happening after you have made a wall, you have to fill it again, So I had this idea of filling the hole with the surroundings of the hole, repeated,
Yes.
which created this psychedelic
Yes. Beautiful.
thing, um, which
Tremendous.
I did not expect.
No, tremendous. It's really, really good. I guess what you've done there, though, is you must have taken away where you've cut out, of course, is no, you haven't. You've included speech balloons there. So there are speech balloons, even so, mixed into these swirling digital.
Yes, this is really a shape I did. This is like my drawing in a way, a drawing with scissors, and
yes.
After that I look what's happening.
Right.
This is experimental, and
it's interesting, and also it makes you look at the original. I mean, certainly that the very last panel on that page has got that lovely staircase, which is already a sort of
yes,
image.
it's true. It's true.
Quite strange.
Everything is already on the source.
Exactly.
I don't bring so much. I just multiply. I just repeat, and I focus on some parts. And
it's interesting which parts you cut out and which parts you leave in. I mean, for example, in the fourth panel, you haven't decided to remix those strange kind of branches or reeds or grasses bottom left, because you
I did not only cut out. I see that now. I hid the speech bubbles with parts of drawings, because I didn't want them to appear, probably.
Exactly.
I had this idea that it would not be so interesting to have some text repeated, so I chose to. So there is some manipulation with some ideas behind, of course.
Yeah, it's not just accident by any means. It's a lot of planning, right? Oh my gosh, these are just extraordinary. Wow. Yes.
Yes, this was made the Smurf Strumpf page during residency, and this was about redoing a page from the description of the page. So I did not have the original story visible. I just had someone had written what was in the panel, like a written script.
Right.
So I had to redo it again.
Right.
So I used my collage. So this is like a palimpsest. I used not only comics element, the character. This is the big Smurf, the old Smurf, but it's from a Middle Age manuscript.
Right.
Because I like also using some Middle Age illuminating drawings.
Yes, you mentioned Bosch to me earlier, I think, as well, so as one of your sources. What an interesting way of, this is an interesting approach. So there's no question of you using the original Peyo comics. It's actually, but using the story, the content of each panel is described, and then you have to reinterpret. That's a very innovative approach, it seems to me, to doing these.
Yes, if you know the Ubapo movement, this is an Ubapo idea.
I mean, Ubapo is the bande dessinée equivalent of Oulipo, which was the literary oeuvre potentiel. I think it's oeuvre de literature potentielle. And this was invented in '92, I think, by the people from mostly I think from l'Association. And yeah, it's a fascinating way of saying, well, let's just apply constraints to comics and see what happens. See what
the residency where it was made is inspired by the Ubapo. It was a gathering of international comics authors, and we were making some little games around the comics.
Great.
Some loops.
And on the right, I recognize at least the character that appears is a recognizable character.
Yes, but you will not guess. This is a palimpsest of a Crazy Cat page. So
Wow.
it's completely
Oh.
hidden behind my palimpsest.
Wow. Okay. And then I recognize the character, the character with the smiling face is from a comic strip, I think.
Yes, it's from yes.
I forget which one it is now.
I don't remember.
He's recurring here. Tremendous. Gosh, very inventive stuff. Great. Okay, let's have a look, see what else we've got. This looks
This is about my
Yoshida here, but with all the fire hydrants.
yes,
and 1001 Dalmatians. Plenty of fire.
This is my collection of different elements I found, and this is impressive. The amount of fire hydrants you find on the comics. They are everywhere.
Right. Well, they are street.
Every genre except the Western genre, you have fire hydrants.
Don't get many fire hydrants out in the Wild West, no.
The animal cartoon comics, the Archie comics, the superhero comics, you always find somewhere a fire hydrant, maybe to help the composition, I don't know.
That's beautiful. Yeah, so many of them. Okay.
So this is another way of making collage. It's just you, of course, this is from this book with real collage. So I have some leftovers, and I just throw them on the scan machine, and I put behind a black paper. And so this is collage without glue. You just have some randomly presented elements,
and they're not even glued down. They're not even glued down to anything. They're literally placed on the machine, and then the black things behind it to hold it in place. You're not gluing these.
No.
So as soon as you lift them up, they've been destroyed because all the pieces.
Yes, it does not exist anymore. Just the moment of the scan.
The moment.
I can do 1,000 of them, of course. And you can recognize Miss Marvel and
I saw a bit of
the leg.
Yeah, exactly. Just a few bits. Yeah. This we will touch. I imagine we need to wrap up relatively soon, but we're getting near the end. But mentioning this, and earlier you mentioned artificial intelligence. There is obviously unlimited variance possible, and in the time that you might take to do all these beautiful one-offs. You could also possibly throw them into an AI like Midjourney or DALL-E or whatever these machines are, and they could generate them too. And I think we might. Is that something you'd like to touch on, to discuss?
Yes, I'm very interested.
Are you embracing AI as a way to proliferate even more material?
Yes, I want to generate some element that I will use the same way as elements sampled for my collage. So I want to use the AI producing as a tool, as an assistant to get more elements to add to my compositions.
And the key thing, of course, is it's still you putting in the prompts and still you choosing which things you want people to see and which ones you don't. You're still making those choices. It's still a machine in that sense. It's not taken over from from your role. It's no different thing, photography or photocopying or all the Adobe Photoshop kind of processes that you've used. So AI just generates more, basically.
The first prompts I used were obviously vintage comics cover. I'm always looking on the same field. So I'm generating some fake covers from the 60s and I want to play with them. And probably I will make a book which will be called This Comics Does Not Exist. This will be the title.
Good title. Yes, right. Okay, what are we looking at here?
This is a collaborative work because, of course, this is difficult for me to use the work from artists from now.
Yeah.
So this is Leo Kievre, he's a friend of mine. He accepted to work with me. So I'm doing the same process with his work. I'm using his comics, I'm sampling the elements, and I'm putting them in a different way. So he's making a 3-page comics, and I'm producing 3 more pages. So it looks like his work, but it's mine from his work. Also, I made the colors.
Excellent.
And behind me, this is another collaborative work with Leo, a huge Volkmar will show this.
Beautiful.
So it looks different from the rest of my work because you have the style of Leo, which is a contemporaneous artist.
And so this is another interesting innovation you're making here, Samplerman, isn't it? Because you're not working with found material with out public domain or general historical material, but working with a living artist and saying, let's collaborate. Let me work with your visual repertoire and see what can be developed from it.
Yes.
And I don't know many people doing this. It's actually saying that like you can collaborate. It's not just it's an interesting development for you. I don't know if you've done this. Seems to open up a whole lot more potential, doesn't it?
But I have to be allowed by the artist to do it. So a Finnish comics magazine from Finland, they asked me to use their previous issues to sample the...
Is that Kuti Kuti?
Kuti Kuti, yes.
Yes, exactly.
So I made pages from samples of previous comics published in the previous issues of Kuti Kuti. So when people ask me to do, I feel completely free to use whatever I want, and the result is really different from the source are completely different. So you have a visually different effect.
And I imagine for Leo Kievre, it's also very interesting for him to see his work in this way. It makes
Leo Kievre is very interested in experimenting. Even his drawings look like collage, and he's working with a lot of sources. But his work is mainly drawing. But he looks at a lot of photographs and a lot of other comics, and he's sampling in a way, but with a pen.
Fascinating. What an interesting development. So we'll see who else you might collaborate with in the future. That would be very exciting. And here's your Mona Lisa. Or another
yes, I wanted to show that I can do the process with a work of art, a painting, something from the Middle Age. So this can lead to anything. I can go to many different styles. And the Mona Lisa page is made with a script, a Photoshop script. So like a kaleidoscope script. And,
yes.
So it has its limits because it's really mechanical. So in the end, it can be a little boring because everything looks the same. So I used it a little, but I stopped.
Tell me, is there a program that can turn drawings into fractals? Because with fractals, every time you look into them, there's more of them there, isn't it? It's the same thing repeats in fractal.
Yes, but no, I don't use fractals. It can look like fractals, but it's not.
No, okay. And I love the medieval one here as well. And I also love the way you've been able to convey the coloring. You've been able to get the print, the texture of the background.
Yes, I love the textures of when I use the comics. I'm very attracted by the textures on the paper. So I want to recreate it in a way. But I also love the medieval art, and I'm always thinking of making a world project around the medieval art. I don't have as many sources as the American comics, but I need time. I need more
They're
time.
out there. I'm sure that they're out there on the internet somewhere, and that could be an amazing project to bring together. I think we've coming into the end.
Yeah, this is the end. This is the last.
Yeah, good. Okay.
So just to show that when I'm making a seal screen from my collage, I have to redraw the collage. So the seal screen on the right is completely redrawn from the left piece.
Right. It's got.
I have to redraw. I have to do the channels.
Yes, exactly. Right, and clear out so it's.
And I really like
colors can be dropped in, of course, on silk when they're silk screened. Yes.
I like to work in a way like in the 40s when they were doing the different colors by hand.
Yeah, the hand coloring. Yeah, exactly, which is unique.
The bended dots, very important.
Yes, right. But here you're not doing the Liechtenstein.
No, I like it. I like it, but I don't want to repeat what he did.
It's a bit too much. There's too much of that. Liechtenstein dots seem to become a kind of very much a cliche for looking like a comic book, don't they? Yeah, beautiful. And I love the way you've got continual breakups. She seems to kiss everything and then break up with even a tube.
This is the idea.
Yes, or an elephant. It's just tremendous. Yes, great. Okay, what do we look? What is
this one? Is just to show that I can do anything in a way. I can use my. I don't usually write the text, but sometimes when there is a theme, I do my own text because it's difficult to reach the theme. So this is about Facebook.
Facebook. I can see
social networks, the algorithms, and. The fake news. So the guy is supposed to be Mark Zuckerberg with his machine, which would be the control of Facebook. This is
and again, you're surprised. As you say, you're surprising yourself and you're surprising us as well, because I'm surprised to see you being using text, being really quite, packing in quite a bit of.
Yes, it's more traditional. It's more
narration,
classical comics and
satirical commentary. Yeah.
Yes.
Is there more of this? Is there more of this?
Not really. It was just a page.
Okay.
But recently, I made a comics for Kirsch Comics about the surveillance capitalism and the programmed obsolescence, and I made my own text because I wanted to say something about it, and it had to be put in text.
Yeah, understood. Right.
And it was printed in Rizzo, so.
Oh yeah.
This is why the colors are so weird, because in Rizzo you always have some, fluorescent pink and fluorescent red.
And you can make nice combinations of colors too. Exactly. I was wondering whether we can get any images of the room and your exhibition up onto the screen. If I stop sharing now, which I assume I can do if I find the machine.
The images of the room. Oh yes, we don't have many. Maybe we.
Or can we just literally physically show them? But otherwise, I think we should just, if we need to wrap up reasonably soon, should we just talk about what you've done for your exhibition in Darmstadt at the?
Yes. So Volkmar asked me.
I'm going to stop sharing, and then maybe. Okay. I don't know whether Volkmar, you're there. Are you able to? Can we have a look through with your help? Can you take us round the gallery or something? Or is it...
Sure, I can do that. The gallery used to be an old pub with an adjacent butcher. Well, this one was commissioned by the New York Times. Now we enter the second room.
So yes, it's I took the measures of the room and sent the layout to Samplerman, and he done it. And then of course it's an old house here, and there is a bit of a tolerance there, but and I scaled it up and let it print on PVC planes, like for trucks and for lorries. They can do prints 4 by 3 meters in one piece. Excellent. And it was fitting perfectly. So I could lay out the floor
and the ceiling too, I think, and the ceiling as well. I think you go.
Yes, and the ceiling. But the ceiling was done in cloth. Yeah. Oh, really? It's like the Sistine Chapel, you know. Perhaps you see something.
Really. It's about birds and clouds. I have a lot of them.
Is this something you made especially for this space, Samplerman? Is it something you made for this location?
It's absolutely.
Yes, some of them were ready-made, but adapted them to the space.
Excellent, right. And have you done this kind of three-dimensional installation before?
Not really. I've made some humanoid figures for an exhibition in Paris last year.
Okay.
It was printed on tissue, and I covered the shapes, and it was based on the silhouettes of covers of an American comics with two girls fighting on the jungle, and I kept the silhouettes and I covered them with my shapes and my patterns and my colors. And,
beautiful.
So it was in volume. So yes, you have this.
Here's the breakout.
Yes, this is the screen you saw before, and behind you have the loop comics, which is a never-ending loop. Maybe.
This one. Yeah.
Yes, this. So it looks like a lamp, in a way.
And you can enter it.
Yes, you can go inside and see it from the inside. Now Volkmar is inside the comics.
Excellent.
Of course, it's mirrored. It's but it's not because the symmetry is very often used in my work.
Using inside.
Oh, there we are. Ah, right.
So that's a vinyl record with a booklet.
Right.
For the Vinyl Moon Club in America.
Beautiful.
And it's like a...
How wonderful. I didn't know about this. Goodness me. Yeah. Well, excellent to see this. Well, the exhibition is on for quite some time still, and in Darmstadt, and I'm sure you'll be having links. People will try and come and see it. It needs to be experienced in person. I can see that very much. It strikes me, actually, Samplerman, that your work would lend itself to further permutations in terms of being immersive gallery experiences, and potentially looking at some kind of virtual form of them. One could imagine a virtual.
I'm open to it.
I mean,
I can go in many directions. I just need time.
Right. But especially with the introduction of AI, enabling you to generate more than perhaps you could do individually and personally, that may also result in some extraordinary visions of that developing from your approach.
This will lead to some surprising results. I don't want to know now where I'm going.
Absolutely not. No. I think you will surprise yourself and us.
This is a revolution. The AI image producing is really something that changes everything.
Yeah.
And you have to take that in account and see what you can do with it.
Absolutely.
I see what I can do. I don't have a very powerful computer. Probably I will have to make some purchase to be able to use the software. we'll see.
Exactly. Yeah. And briefly, that last comic that Volkmar was showing me with the vinyl record,
Yes.
how did that collaboration come about? And were you responding to the music, or
actually, I don't really like the music on the record, but it's an ongoing project. A guy in California is running a monthly under subscription project with each month a compilation with recent pop music tracks, and the people are subscribers. They receive each month a new record with each time it's a different artist, and the sleeve is really think differently each time. And so of course he asked me to do a comic, and I wanted to invest all the aspects of the record, the sleeve, the inner sleeve, the round shape on the record, everything.
Right.
Very nice. I like to do sleeves if some artist want. For them.
Tremendous. It's another excellent project. It'd be nice to see you actually working with musicians whose work you like. I know you say how important music is, that you even listen to it when you're asleep. To find a musical collaboration that could somehow feed back between the two of you,
yes,
I'm sure would be possible too, wouldn't it?
Yes. An American artist asked me to make his cover for his album, and his music is based on collage, so there's some connection between the two, the visual and the music.
That sounds weird.
The record is called Ghost Power. It's Ghost Power. It's the name of the record. It went out 6 months ago.
Okay, all right. Is that Goth? G-O-T-H?
Yes, like a phantom.
Yes, Goth.
Ghost Power.
Ghost Power.
Yes.
Ah, excellent. Well, thank you for this opportunity to
thank you so much.
Talk with you. Very inspiring, very exciting, and may you continue to surprise us and surprise yourself. I'm quite sure you are going to
do my best.
I think tremendously, and frankly also hopefully will inspire more people to take up collage and not see it as something minor and lacking in some kind of skill or originality, because clearly it's completely open, isn't it, as an art form in its own right. It hasn't historically had a lot of serious kind of attention or criticism or celebration in the fine art world, because of course the fine art world is so much based on, you meant to be doing this, it has to be the hand, the brush, the pen,
yes,
all this kind of thing.
Some
you have to be
reactionary way of seeing art.
Absolutely.
Actually, collage gets some attention from the public, so it comes from the public, from the audience. The people are interested in,
and we can all do it. I mean, we can all do it. I mean, we can all participate. It's not it's exclusionary and based on, oh, you can't draw properly or whatever it might be. It allows you to participate. Yeah, brilliant. Thank you so much, and thank you, Volkmar, for inviting me and letting me have this encounter. And I hope that we'll get to meet in person. All three of us can meet at some stage in the future. A real pleasure, and best of luck with all your new projects.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And
thank you.
Same for you.
Thanks very much.
Bye.
Goodbye for now. Bye. Bye from London.
Bye from Darmstadt.
Dankeschön. Okay, so we can cut off there, and then I guess that you're going to be editing this in some form, aren't you?
Yes.
Yes. Yes. Good. Thank you. And maybe you can even cut in, because unfortunately, whenever we started speaking, we couldn't see your film of the installation because it's Zoom responds to who is speaking, not to what is being shown. So with a bit of editing, you might be able to edit in a bit more of the video of your exhibition. That could be done, couldn't it? Yes. Thank you. I will leave you in peace. It's been a real pleasure. I'm so glad we did this. Bye-bye for now. Take care. Auf Wiedersehen. Tschüss.